because this might be the inner chronicle of what we are. And we have to articulate ourselves, otherwise we would be cows in a field.
Welcome to Cows in the Field. This is yet another movie podcast. I'm your host, Laura.
And I'm Justin.
And today we're talking about the 2003 thriller Identity.
Who directed this?
Joe Mangold?
James Mangold. Joe Mangold. Okay, Joe Mangold it is.
Keep it in.
From now on, his name is Joe Mangold. All right, continue. His
friends call him Joe.
Yeah, that's of course. He also directed such films you may have heard of as Talk the Line and Rogan.
Logan? Man, we're only like 30 seconds in and we're
keeping
really
it
screwing
loose.
The pooch here.
We're keeping it loose. Joe, all right, we got Joe Mangold on the line coming up. He's coming up next to be interviewed for this podcast that nobody listens to. Here we go.
It's your birthday next week. It's my birthday next week, the 10th.
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah. George York, May 10th. Alice York, May 10th. Carol and Suzanne, May 10th. Ginny, Louisiana, May 10th. Me, Larry Washington, May fucking 10th. What are the odds? Must be 10 trillion to 1.
What is it?
I like this movie.
Laura, this was Laura's choice.
I'm just going to say it. And I'm not going to apologize. I might apologize a few times for it, but I like it.
Yeah. So this movie came out in 2003. And did you see it in theaters?
No.
Okay. So this
definitely not. This is a blockbuster rental situation.
VHS or DVD?
DVD. What do you think? This is 2003.
I really honestly don't know. Honestly, I can't remember.
No, it's
when.
definitely like, it was one of those movies that for whatever reason, I like imprinted on. Not for whatever
reason. We know the reason.
Why.
We're gonna go through the reasons.
You're right. I'm gonna list out the reasons.
Yeah, the reasons are gonna be like you will leave this episode knowing exactly why Laura loves this movie.
So here's the thing: this movie was made for me. It was made for me. It has all of the things that I like.
Let's go through it.
Wait, should we issue our disclaimers?
Oh yeah,
first?
we got to put the disclaimer on.
Yeah. Okay. So this movie is
disclaimer?
a twist movie, and we're gonna ruin it. We're gonna do some massive spoilers. This movie's almost 20 years old, so get over it. We're also gonna
honestly, the spoilers. We're gonna have a huge discussion about twists on this episode and about good and bad twists. And the twist in this movie, like we are ruining it, but it's also
kind of inconsequential.
This is a dumb twist movie, I think. So. Feel free to continue listening, even if you haven't seen the movie. And then you watch the movie, I don't think it's really going to matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And I am also maybe going to ruin Agatha Christie's 1939 and Then There Were None novel for you, in that I'm going to talk about who the killer was. So, if that's something that's really important to you, you might want to pause and just go ahead and read that book real quick and then come back to it.
Okay. And then the last disclaimer, actually, I want to add a disclaimer.
We're not going to talk about DID.
Yeah. So, okay, ready, twist. All right, we already said you basically just gave the twist. This twist involves multiple personality disorder, which as far as, any clinical psychologist seems to think, there really isn't such a thing. And this ends up being, mined by Hollywood again and again to portray people with mental illness in an incredibly negative light. Okay, disclaimer, it's not a great portrayal of mental illness.
No.
Which is a thing that many, many, many people suffer from. And as far as we know, no one suffers from dissociative identity disorder. And it's bad to portray people with mental illness in a negative light. That's the last disclaimer, which we're not on board with that.
No.
But after issuing this note, we're not going to talk about it again.
Yep.
For the most part.
Yep.
Okay.
So back to why I love this movie.
Yeah, let's get into the let's get into the
now
fun
that we
stuff.
just said a bunch of stuff that seems to maybe like
Very
bring it down.
serious.
Okay, so this movie was made for me. It has everything I want. It has Hitchcock references, elements.
Oh,
It is
interesting. Actually, I didn't pick up on the Hitchcock.
they're in a motel. Justin.
Okay,
All
yeah.
right, he's
yeah.
making fun of me.
No,
He
I
picks
like
up on
this. I
it.
like this.
All
Yeah.
right.
What else is it?
It's got Hitchcock / Psycho references. I love Psycho.
Yeah.
It's got explicit references and to Agatha Christie.
Check.
And then There Were None, which is my favorite Agatha Christie book and one that has completely screwed me up for the rest of my life. It has people with a lot of secrets. I love that. I love
People with secrets?
I love when everybody's got a secret.
I guess that's why you like spy movies so much,
Yes.
right? You're always into the like who's spying on who.
Secrets on secrets.
Yeah.
Double, triple agents. I love that.
Okay.
Okay, it's got Indian burial grounds.
Are you into? Is that particularly you're into that kind of thing? Because actually, I would actually argue you're not into that because Poltergeist, which is like the one I think of as the ultimate Indian burial ground movie, you're not into.
Okay, but I'm into Amityville horror and I'm into The Shining. It's a good, solid horror movie element.
Check.
Like it.
Okay.
Check. It's got some very unsettling kills. Things that have been keeping it's just rattling around in my brain like a head in a dryer, just the thunking around
Yeah.
until I die.
Yeah, there was a moment in the movie where Laura like tapped me. She was like, oh, I just remembered something. And I was like, don't tell me because I don't remember what happens in this movie. And then like later someone dies in a particularly gruesome way. And Laura's like, that's what I remembered. And I thought, great. Wow. That you just had that memory.
Yeah. Yep.
You've just been carrying
That's
that
just
with
in my
you.
brain. That's
Okay.
just in my brain. It's never leaving.
You've been carrying
And I
it
think
like
that's a
Rose
good
DeWitt
thing.
Decatur.
And it's got a cast full of people that I particularly love.
Okay. Should we go through this cast?
Yeah, I mean, would you like to go through the full?
No,
the
I mean,
full
just tell me
thing?
the people that you love.
I
of
mean,
the
in
cast.
particular, John Cusack.
Yeah,
John
Cuse.
Cusack in an early 2000s mode. Like, this is his high fidelity moment.
That's
this
true.
is probably
Yeah.
my favorite John Cusack era, is the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, starting from Grosse Pointe Blank into early 2000s. This is
Yeah.
like peak Cusack for me personally.
Yeah, that seems right. Yeah, I think this is. I mean, after the sort of early aughts, it really does seem to go downhill.
It takes a real
for
dive.
him.
It takes
Yeah.
a real dive.
I mean, he does a lot of movies.
He
but-
works,
Yeah,
but I don't watch any of them. I'm sorry, John Cusack.
I mean, he shows up and stuff.
I love you. It borrows heavily from Seven Style, which is another movie that was really important to me.
Okay.
Oh, wait, before we leave the cast, I should also mention that it has Bullethead in it.
Okay. Who I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, why would you? So this is why this movie is like perfect for me specifically. I love this actor named William Lee Scott, who does show up in a number of things in the like late 90s, early 2000s.
He's the guy that looks like Aaron. What's his name? Aaron Paul. He kind of looks like Aaron.
He
Paul,
does kind
right?
of look like Aaron Paul. He's a blonde guy.
He's like a short blonde guy.
Short blonde guy.
Yeah.
And I knew him as Bullethead because I did not have cable growing up. And so I watched a lot of UPN, which means I watched a lot of the Steve Harvey show.
I don't even know what that is. Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look
it's
this
a
up.
sitcom.
Okay. So,
And Steve Harvey plays like the principal, I believe, or some administrator. Maybe he's just a teacher
okay.
at a high school. And it is a mostly black high school. And then there's like one white guy named Bullethead who's dumb. And they're always teasing him for being white. That's William Lee Scott.
I see. But he's like a main character on this
He's a main
show.
character. He's like,
Okay.
he's best friends with the main character.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. WB. Yeah. I didn't even know this show existed.
You're welcome.
Here's so if you Google it, you get. This is great. You know how they have that people also ask.
Uh-huh.
So here are the top 4 questions that people also
About the
ask.
Steve Harvey show?
Why did Steve Harvey show get canceled?
Yeah, why did it?
Was Steve Harvey show canceled? was Steve Harvey net worth? That's an actual question. How do I contact the Steve Harvey show? This is crazy. Okay, so yeah.
Well, I think it's all extra confusing because he now has a talk show which may be called the Steve Harvey show.
Oh.
But
Yeah,
there was,
some of this is talking about the talk show.
correct. Very confusing. But there
okay.
was a late 90s sitcom.
Which was called The Steve Harvey Show.
I believe it was.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
It's like how like Martin Lawrence had a TV show called Martin and D.L. Hughley had his own show. Do you remember this?
Yes, I remember that. But I missed the Steve Harvey one. I don't know.
Okay.
I
Well,
missed it.
that's a bummer for you. There were some really great jokes with Bullethead.
Okay. So he's okay. So Aaron
Anyway.
Taylor, Bullethead.
Clea Duvall, I feel like was showing up in movies.
Clea Duvall. Who is that? I don't
She
even know who that
plays
is.
Jenny.
Yeah, but I don't even know what else she was in. It's fine. I'm looking. It's fine.
She was in a bunch of teen
yeah,
movies.
she has a bunch of teen movies.
Bunch of teen movies.
Okay.
So yeah, like she shows up. She was actually very quickly in our favorite movie, Can't Hardly Wait.
You're also a John Hawkes fan, right?
I love John
Yeah,
Hawkes.
you're a Jay Hawkes.
What's not to love about John Hawkes?
Yeah. How tall do you think John Hawkes is?
Great question. I'm gonna say 5'10".
5'10"? He seems like he's short.
He's skinny, but I think he hunches.
You think he hunches? Okay, I'll look this up. Meanwhile, go. Who else is on your list?
That's pretty intense. I mean, Alfred Molina is in it. You gotta love Alfred Molina.
Wow, you nailed it. 5'10".
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then of course John C. McGinley.
McGinley, right?
McGinley,
And
who
then
I've seen a lot of on Scrubs.
Yeah, you were a huge Scrubs fan.
Yep.
That's another show I literally don't even. I know it's about doctors, but that's it.
Weirdly, the more famous people in this movie, Ray Liotta and Amanda Peet, not as into. Not anti, but their eyes scare me.
Okay. Yeah.
Although I think Amanda Peet's great in this, actually. Anyway, so this is all to say, this movie's not super original. And maybe it's a little bit of pastiche, but it's like a bunch. If you put like a bunch of ingredients into a blender, but you like all those ingredients, it's gonna taste good.
No, that's exact. We've been listening to children's songs that explain exactly the opposite of that. They're like, do you like pizza? Do you like ice cream? Do you like ice cream pizza? You're like, this exactly.
Listen, this movie might be ice cream pizza, but I'm sitting here telling you that I like
You're
it.
shoving it. You're just like, give me more. You're like microwaving it and then like drinking the ice cream
Yes,
pizza.
yes. Give me that micro.
No.
Give me that ice cream pizza.
Okay. I get it though. I mean, I get
So
it.
You reject
watched.
my premise that if you put a bunch of stuff I love together, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean, we've already established ice cream pizza's bad. But sometimes it is good. Like when you take pepperoni and cheese and bread and pasta sauce or whatever, and you put it together and it becomes pizza, and it's really good. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just not a guarantee. And okay, but I think the real thing that we're getting at here is that you watch this movie at the right time in your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But I think it has a lot of rewatchability.
Yeah, okay. I think we disagree on that one, but we both watched it last night, and I've seen it once before, and I watched, and this was a rewatch for me, and I was underwhelmed. I'll say nice things about it as we go along,
That's
but I'm
fine.
not gonna withhold my opinion.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's yeah, okay, all right. So, but I mean, here, let me just say this. Let me say one nice thing about the movie to
Thank
begin
you.
with, which
Thank
is
you.
that
I wish you would.
I feel like the first third, I was totally into. I was enjoying myself. I feel like it was economical writing, putting all these characters in the same place, giving them reasons to be there. And then stuff starts happening, and it's suspenseful, and it's a thriller, and everything is working really well, and it just is hitting all the genre buttons, and it's quite fun. And then it just takes a nosedive off a cliff. But yeah, the part before it takes the nosedive, that is the twist, and then the second twist I thought were really. I thought it's effective. It's what I want from a thriller.
Mm-hmm. For you, so I think oftentimes what happens with movies, particularly thriller movies or horror movies, that are, they set up a lot of things that are tantalizing. They set up a lot of mysteries.
Yeah.
And then they have to make a choice.
Yeah.
And when they make a choice, sometimes it just it totally falls flat.
Well, I actually think this movie, in a way, doesn't make a choice. That's what I don't like about the twist.
Because
is that
it doesn't decide it's supernatural, nor does it decide that it's grounded.
There's one guy who's actually doing the killing or whatever. It uses the twist as a crutch to get out of what it is. Maybe we should just talk about this right now.
About twists?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's just do it, and we'll come back to Agatha Christie.
Okay. Yeah, that's
right,
totally fine.
Yeah, because I was just gonna, as I was saying, I think the twist stuff. Watching this movie and then thinking about how I hated the twist, and the twist is that they're all characters in this guy's mind. In some guy who's suffering from dissociative identity disorder, and he's on death row, and they're trying to his lawyers are trying to last minute stay the execution because they're trying to prove that they can sort of exercise all the bad identities and leave only the good ones.
Right.
And then
So this is all playing out, dramatized as in his mind as all of his identities together in a motel on a dark and stormy night.
And they're being sort of
Picked off one by one.
By what? His subconscious? I mean, that's the thing.
His evil identity. There's one identity.
I guess that's right.
The killer.
That's the second twist, which is which identity is it? And it's the one you least expect. It's the 12-year-old child.
He's so
least
scary.
Expected.
He's so scary.
Okay. I just, as I was saying, the movie is fun without the twist. It's a sufficiently enjoyable thriller without the twist, and I feel like it just sort of writes itself in a corner, and then it's like, we got to have something original for this audience that has come along for this ride, and if it's any of these characters, like they'll have seen it a mile away, so we'll have to somehow add this layer of twist to make it, I don't know, keep them on their toes. And it weirdly did seem to work for some people, among them Roger Ebert apparently, but it did not work for me. And when you actually try to find lists of best and worst twists, this definitely appears on worst twist lists.
So rude.
I mean, okay, hypothesis, why is there a twist in this movie? One is that they don't know what they're doing writing wise, but like two is that in fact, Hollywood was experiencing a weird like twist renaissance or something, and they were like greenlighting twist movies left and right, and maybe even writing twists into movies that didn't need to be there. And
I can imagine there's a version where somebody's like, I want to write a movie about a bunch of people getting killed in a motel, and the studio's like, where's the twist? Yeah,
exactly. So but there's a lot of twist movies, among them Primal Fear, which we're going to talk about later, Fight Club, Sixth Sense, The Others, Old Boy. These are all around the same time, which is, I think, so interesting. Right around turn of the 21st century. Matchstick Men, Life of David Gale, Saw, The Prestige, Shutter Island. And this movie is 2003, so it's right in the middle of this. And it does feel like by the time Shutter Island comes around that the twisting has kind of played itself out. Although occasionally you get twist stuff here and there. You get like the Gone Girl thing. You get, like that kind of, but it feels weirdly like it's a throwback almost when you have a kind of twist thing like that. And of course, Shyamalan is still doing his twist stuff with Split and what was the other one he did? Well, Village is in here. We didn't list Village. Village is 2004. So Village is in this mix too. Yeah. But then Shyamalan's doing it with Split and other I can't remember what else he's done.
He did The Visit and Glass.
Glass, yeah.
And Glass is the most recent one.
But like Shyamalan's having his run here post Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I think he's like kind of pigeonholed, penned in a little bit by his reputation as like the twist guy.
Yeah, he can't do a straightforward movie basically.
No.
Yeah.
And everybody expects him. Like if he were to do a straightforward movie, I feel like people would be like, I don't understand. Where is the twist?
Yeah. But it got me thinking, I mean, watching this movie and being like just underwhelmed and almost irritated by the twist, like why is it that I'm totally fine and in fact enjoy the twist in The Sixth Sense or, maybe Fight Club or Usual Suspects, but just absolutely disliked the twist in this movie. And so it just got me thinking about that question. It's like, why is that? One answer is that in a movie like The Sixth Sense, which I think everyone remembers as sort of the ultimate twist movie because no one saw it coming and then they had to go see it again because all the clues were there. That movie is fine without the twist. And that movie basically plays great without the twist. It's all the drama and things that matter in that movie play out independently of the twist. The twist ends up adding to the theme of the movie, and it feels earned because again and again they've given you everything you need to know that to think that this is a possibility. So it doesn't feel cheap and it doesn't feel unfair to the audience, I guess. But it also isn't necessary. And I weirdly think that's helpful, right? That a twist, I feel like the movie, if it is depending on its twist, that's usually a bad sign. You don't want the movie to like rely on the twist to like tie up narrative loose ends or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like then it feels cheap. So that's one reason I think Sixth Sense works.
I agree with you on that one. And the rewatchability is an important part too, because I think the director has to sort of walk a line in giving you all the clues so that it doesn't feel unfair if you were to rewatch it. But to also make sure that you're so engrossed in the story that you're effectively misdirected.
Yeah.
So that like it's magic when it happens the first time, and you do want to go back and watch it the second time, and then the second viewing is even more fun or a different kind of fun.
It's a different kind of fun.
You're looking for it, and that's so gratifying.
Yeah,
too.
that's a really good point, that you get to watch the movie from a completely different point of view.
Yeah, you get like two viewing experiences.
And so you get to, and that definitely happened with Sixth Sense, because people were going back and seeing it multiple times.
Yeah, you're like, does he touch the chair? You know, like you're really like, you're almost looking for slip ups, and if you don't find them, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. But what I love is then with Sixth Sense, just to go back to my earlier point, is that by the third viewing, now you've seen it. You've seen it by looking for the twist.
Then you're just taking it in as
and
a
now
film.
You're just enjoying it as a
and
movie.
You're just watching it as a drama about a mother and her son.
Yeah.
And if you happen to be pregnant while you're watching it, you cry the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, there's this wonderful scene towards the end of the movie with Haley Joel and Toni Collette, where they share this incredibly intimate moment where he shares something incredibly personal with Toni Collette about her mom, who's died. And it's just like gripping. It's just gripping like emotional drama, and you know that whatever elements there, supernatural or who's dead, who's alive, like it doesn't matter, because it's just it's a real experience. It's a genuine emotion that's earned, and it's portrayed really well by the actors, of course. So okay, so that's helpful. What makes the twist bad?
I mean, I think what you described about identity, feeling like it's a deus ex machina or like a way to get out of a corner that they've written into. If it feels like the writers had nowhere else to go. That's sort of how the feeling of watching Lost is the entire way through. You're just like, they don't know what's happening. Uh-oh. Throw in another smoke monster. What year is it? They just keep throwing twists in, and it sort of gets like convoluted and insane.
Yeah.
And you just have a feeling like they didn't have a plan. That doesn't feel good.
I also think twists that are too complicated don't work. You know, like twists that are like...
Can you give an example?
I'm wondering if Life of David Gale fits this. It's like Kevin Spacey and Laura Linney, I think. And like one of them, like... They're trying to make a point about the death penalty by showing that you can actually put an innocent man to death, and how that's like the worst thing. And they do this by conducting this like elaborate thing where one of them frames themselves or something. And it's so convoluted. And, you know, you're like, I feel like, okay, in the moment you might be like, whoa, what a cool twist. But then you like sit down and you start to think about it, and you're like, oh, this is actually like not working. It's not holding together in the way that, you know, it's not natural. And so I think the convoluted, overly complicated twist is also another one that's kind of annoying.
You want the twist reveal to be able to like just in 30 seconds, they show you some flashes of something to go, you know, of explanatory, you know, flashbacks or something. And that's enough. That's all you need.
Yeah. I guess I mean, not just in terms of how much you have to explain, not just complexity in terms of how much you have to explain to the audience, but rather if it's overly complicated in the sense that, well, this had to happen and then that had to happen and then this other thing had to happen and it was all part of their master plan. I just feel like
it doesn't feel like it's not reality.
It doesn't feel like it's an earned piece of narrative writing, which where, you know, like I think good narrative writing explains things in a way that can make sense to the viewer. Like, oh, this person did this thing because they thought this would happen, and that's a reasonable thing for them to expect. As opposed to like, well, if a million things lined up properly, then it would, you know, it was going to go their way. And but they could never have foreseen that. And that's kind of how it ends up. I don't have a good example before my mind, but I feel
that's
like...
how Gone Girl also feels.
Yeah, Gone Girl's a bit like that. I mean, a lot of the stuff in weirdly. I mean, I kind of like Saw, but a lot of the stuff in Saw is like that.
Yes,
where
totally.
it's just like so complicated and like incomplete. But it's almost like
yeah. But when he stood up in the middle of that
that's an
room,
amazing twist.
I lost my damn mind.
Yeah, I think there were diminishing returns for some of the other twists, but
Sure.
I enjoy them. And I think part of the reason I enjoy the twists in Saw, despite sort of breaking my own rule here about overly complicated twists, is that it feels like in Saw they're just having fun. Like they're just like they're not taking this seriously. They're not trying to be cool or like interesting. They're just like, oh, we're gonna try to have like an absurd twist. Just like he creates whatever Jigsaw. I was gonna call him Sawtooth. Sawtooth.
That's the next series.
Yeah,
After Chris Rock does his, then there's going to be.
That's right. We're pitching it now, Sawtooth. Anyway, so Sawtooth, he always creates these like Rube Goldberg level like entrapments that like, where he could have just, I don't know, tied barbed wire around the guy. Instead, he's like, no, you've got barbed wire around you and you're in a pit of syringes and you're on fire. Oh no, you're smothered in.
How is your way going to make them appreciate their life in the end? Justin.
That's why I would not be a good protege of Sawtooth. Because when Sawtooth, that's that's going to be my movie. My movie's going to be about
the protege.
It's about like a reality TV show where people like audition. It's like Shark Tank.
Oh my God.
But Sawtooth. That's what it is. It's Shark Tank Sawtooth. So they come on and he's there behind his little tricycle and he's like, I want you to pitch me a game. And then they're like, okay, Sawtooth, here we go. And he's like, nope, you didn't do it. You lose. Like they got their whiteboard
Game
there.
Game over, not you lose. What's wrong with you?
Game over. And then
it's
they
a missed opportunity.
And then they fall into a pit of syringes. And that's. Is it gonna be a fun movie?
That sounds great.
Sawtooth.
There's gonna be some really good twists in that TV show.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that.
No, it's a movie.
2025. I thought it's a movie, but it's like Shark Tank, the TV show, but it's a movie.
But 1 hour 30 minutes. Of it.
Great. Moving on. So
I think we got to the bottom of that.
Did we figure out what make twists good?
Yeah,
and bad?
I think we figured it out. Okay.
I think the thing too about like why I'm not bothered by this. To be clear, I don't love the twist either. I think I just want the motel stuff. Like the framing narrative. Who needs it? Not me. I'm there for just pouring rain on John Cusack because he's trying to like get some stuff done.
Yep.
But I'm also not bothered when twists are cheap in that like there's no way you could have ever figured it out. And I think that's also because of my deep love for Agatha Christie, who does not play fair. And it's always like that. It's always like an Hercule Poirot book is always like, there's 300 clues, 250 of them are maybe red herrings. You have no idea if it's the broken suntan lotion bottle or like the hat with a bullet hole through it that's going to unlock this whole thing. These are real examples. I'm not making those things
really?
up. Yes.
Is that why they cast Bullethead? It must have been, right?
They cast Bullethead because Bullethead is great. No, this is not from the hat with the bullet is not from And Then There Were None. That was another one.
Yeah.
Another novel. Because And Then There Were None was not a Poirot novel. Anyway, neither here nor there. The point being is that like there's no way you can ever figure out an Agatha Christie novel.
Yeah.
She just doesn't play fair, and I'm not bothered by it.
Okay, but can you explain what's fun about that? I just don't. It just feels mean. Why don't you just read the book backwards then?
What? No. Because you gotta find out the reveals.
But you have no way of. There's no like. Then you get to read it again.
Why do you need to know the reveals?
No,
like, why do you need to figure it out yourself? Why can't you just be along for the ride?
But I thought it would be fun to be like. I thought the part of the fun is like trying to guess who it is. But if it's like you'll never guess,
you'll just be wrong.
Yeah, that's my point.
Well, you might be right. You're by pure chance.
Yeah, but exactly. What's fun about that is like.
Well, I think the thing is, I've read a lot of Nancy Drew novels growing up.
Is it the same kind of thing?
No, Nancy Drew novels are incredibly easy to figure out. They're written for children.
Are they
but
like
I remember just
Scooby-Doo?
being like
always...
offended as a third grader. Yeah, it's like Scooby-Doo. It's always the person you don't expect. It's always like the nice person. If there's a new character who's nice, that person did it.
You're like
100% every time.
Okay.
It's not hard. And when I was in third grade, I was like, F this bullshit. I already know it's this girl and we're on page 3. This is so annoying. So then I read Agatha Christie and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm scared.
I see. So it's sort of like, okay, I want
to be intrigued. I want to have the mystery, and I'm not worried about solving it myself. It will be revealed in the end. I have faith in Agatha Christie that she will show me the way at the end.
My analogy is this.
Okay.
So you know how people they start it's you know how at least this as the story goes, if you're a conservative, you think people start out with marijuana and then they're like, this isn't hard enough. I need some more hardcore stuff. So then they move to
Nancy
cocaine.
Drew's my gateway drug.
Yeah, and then they move to cocaine, and then they're like, I think I could use a little bit more of a boost. So then they
Am
go
I
to
like on-
MDM,
Okay.
and then eventually they're just like, you know what? Just give me the heroin. Just
Okay.
let me.
I thought you were going to say bath salts. I was like, what's Agatha Christie in this scenario?
Yeah, the whole point of all this is that Agatha Christie is like heroin. It's like it's the purest form of, not revealing anything that you need to understand what's going on until the last page, right? It's just pure, suspense all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
No chance at solving the mystery before Poirot comes in and I don't fucking know. Does he smoke a pipe?
He does have a pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a big mustache. I'm becoming increasingly paranoid that in fact other people can figure out Agatha Christie novels, and like when they listen to this, they're just going to think I'm really dumb.
Yeah, that would be amazing. People like our friends who are listening to this are like,
this is so easy.
They're like, you know what you said about Nancy Drew?
Oh my God, cut all this. I'm so scared.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will say this. I've never read a single Agatha Christie novel, so I have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm just going to go ahead and continue to hold on to my analogy that it's heroin.
Okay, great. It's your loss, honestly.
Why are we talking about Agatha Christie?
We're talking about Agatha Christie because this movie is explicitly an Agatha Christie novel.
Which one?
It is And Then There Were None, which is a 1939 novel. It came out in 1940 in the US. It's the world's best-selling mystery and apparently one of the best-selling books of all time. Just
Really?
straight up books of all time.
More than Dune? Because Dune sold a lot of copies.
I don't know where it ranks according to Dune.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
gonna
I
have to
think
find
Dune's
that
got to
data.
be one or two, and then maybe Christie's up there. But Dune, people bought that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I'm
Do
sure they did.
They bought it. They're going to be going to see Dune in 2024 when it comes out.
And there have been a couple of film versions of And Then There Were None, including this movie,
Nice.
essentially. And apparently a miniseries in 2015. But it's basically, and this is described, the character Jenny says, like, remember that movie where there were 10 people stuck on an island? That's what she's referencing. She's referencing And Then There Were None, where there were 10 people stuck on an island, killed off one by one in a manner that matched a nursery rhyme called 10 Little Soldiers. And there were 10 little figurines, and the figurines would disappear one by one as the people died. So it's pretty much the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
And I love
right
it.
down to the disappearing.
Right down. That's where Justin really got off.
Yeah, when they start disappearing, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. So if you know the plot of the book, then you already are clued into the fact that something kind of unfair is going to happen in this movie.
Well, because you know it's Agatha Christie, so of course it's going to be unfair.
So in the poem, so 10 little soldiers die in various ways, and the people die in the same ways, one by one. And there's one little soldier who gets swallowed up by a red herring.
Nice.
And
like is that literally where this word comes?
No, the red herring, I looked that up. The expression predates the book.
But it's a callback to that expression.
Yes.
That's cool.
And one of the deaths that happens, you might think whoever is left over is the killer, right? Or there's an outside killer. But in fact, it's neither one of those things. One of the people that dies, like the 6th or 7th death in this book, is in fact the killer. He fakes his death and then he's skulking around the house setting up the last murders.
Nice.
That fucked with my brain so badly.
Wait.
I thought he was in my house, like for sure.
Just because he faked his death?
Yeah.
You're
That
like,
really-
no one can ever stay dead now.
Yeah.
I don't trust anything.
Yes. And this happens in this movie
Yes,
too.
that's true.
You think that a character is dead. You think the little boy died. Little boy did not die. Little boy is the killer. Surprise, that's the second twist. We already said it.
That second twist, man, I'm ranking it as worse than the first twist.
What? Come on.
This is
Why? That kid is scary. That kid haunts my dreams.
Yeah, well, he's a creepy dude. I thought he was the kid from Step Brothers, but turns out I was wrong.
So one of the things we were trying to think about what this movie might mean beyond maybe the obvious. And I mentioned that this movie has Indian burial grounds, and we were wondering if this movie might, in fact, be unintentionally about white guilt or intentionally. Not sure. But the motel is situated on an Indian burial ground. And Ginny, the same woman who mentioned the "And Then There Were None" novel, says that she read in a brochure in the motel office that the government has forcibly moved American Indians, and they all died in this site because there was no water.
That is fascinating. Wow, I didn't even track that actually.
You didn't track what?
I didn't even register at that point. When she says that, I must have not been paying attention. Yeah, but what's interesting, I think, about that, there's a lot of things, but one thing is that they're constantly being rained on.
Yes. Yep.
So, I mean, to think that like this is an area where a bunch of people could die because of
there's
drought.
No water, and like they are dying because there's so much water.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Okay.
Yes, if you think about, have and have nots.
Mm-hmm.
And there is also one of the better moments of this movie is when Ed talks about, which is John Cusack's character talks about his experience being a cop and why he stopped being a cop. And he tells a story about a woman who was about to jump and take her own life, and he was not able to talk her down. Couldn't in the moment think of anything optimistic to say about her.
I think it was like she asked him
what's the point
of living?
And she asked him in Spanish.
Interesting. And he couldn't, he's like, in that moment, I couldn't tell her anything. I couldn't honestly give her any answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also, it's relevant to that. I did notice that he is reading Being in Nothingness, which I actually should have done some research on this. I didn't, but that's a book that's an existentialist manifesto written by Jean-Paul Sartre. And it's, about not the meaninglessness of life and how you have to, because there's no given meaning in life. You have to go and find and create your own meaning create your own meaning through your actions. So I did think that was an interesting tie-in. I'm not sure what else to make of that though.
Mm-hmm. Well, perhaps he's having trouble understanding the meaning of life because he does not have a real life.
That could be part of it. Also because, as Sartre would argue, he's too busy reading Sartre and just as opposed to just doing stuff.
I see.
Because that's what Sartre would say. It's just like, go and do stuff and you'll find meaning in what you do because you'll create it. Don't read me. Mm. I'm not going to tell you the answer. That's kind of that's kind of, in a way, the take home message.
Okay.
But, it's a long book, so there's a lot of other things in there.
I thank you for those clip notes, though.
That's my takeaway.
But it was interesting that they make a point to say that this woman who he's trying to talk down from a ledge is Mexican.
Yeah.
And that she speaks to him in Spanish. Because there are no people of color in this movie.
Yeah.
None. Yeah. Not a single person. And they do make the only time they make explicit mention of people of color, it's the American Indians that were forced here and essentially murdered because they died of thirst, and this Mexican woman who he was not able to he had no reason for her to live. He couldn't tell her one, and she said that she was one of the truly damned or truly doomed.
Yeah, she's also was a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe she was just reading too much Agatha Christie. I don't know.
So rude.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm gonna make you read some Agatha Christie after this. That's gonna be your punishment.
Really?
My gift to you.
I like that you realized right after you said punishment that you're like, wait, it's not a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's good.
It's good. It's good, and you're gonna like it.
I'm gonna make you read Dune after this, and it will be a punishment for you.
I'm not sure how far this white guilt theory does in fact track. It is true that everybody is guilty of something, it feels like. And that's the same plot as, And Then There Were None. What's drawing them all together is that somebody is blackmailing all of them. Just like in Clue. I love Clue.
Oh, that's
also Clue is also And Then There Were None. Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a mysterious person who is what is it? It's O-W No, something it's UN Owen is the person who writes them all letters being like, I know your secret, come to this island. Unknown UN Owen. It's awesome. Come on, it's awesome. Anyway, the point is that that there is a person who knows all their secrets, who believes that they have all committed murder and gotten away with it.
I
So
see.
he brings them all together on this island and then kills them off one by one.
Island. What is this? And then there were none.
Yes.
Oh,
this is
okay. I
in
thought we
There
were talking
None.
about Clue. I was like, what? It's on an island?
No. This is
Yeah.
and then there were none.
Yeah.
And no, in Clue, it's that Heath Black's he's not blackmailing because they're murderers. He's blackmailing them because they're un-American. Don't you remember?
I honestly can't remember why anything is happening in that movie.
Is it because there are 14 endings on
It's
purpose?
14 endings, but Madeline Kahn is great. So.
She's so good. But it is true. I mean, I said everybody has a secret, right? I mean, Ray Liotta is actually a murderer.
That's right,
Posing
yeah.
as a cop.
Yeah.
Jake Busey is just straight up a murderer, not posing as anything, but a murderer.
Yeah.
John Hawk's character Larry took over at the motel on false pretenses. If we believe his story, and if we don't believe his story, he may also be a murderer.
That's right. Yeah.
He's chilling with
Yeah.
with a body in the fridge.
Yeah.
Casually. Jenny, this is a little less egregious, but Jenny lied to Lou about getting pregnant and getting her in order to get him to marry her.
Mm.
Lou seems like he's got a pretty big infidelity problem based on the way he's like looking at Paris.
Mm.
Paris has a suitcase full of money. Maybe it's just that she, like it could just be what she's saved up from her life in Las Vegas as a sex worker, or she could have stolen it. She stole the lighter. It's kind of unclear. She's cagey about it when she's like going to check on her money.
I should also mention about Paris. She's guilty of kind of throwing everything into motion because it's her shoe.
Right.
It's the other shoe that drops out of her trunk,
Mm-hmm.
causing McGinley to get a flat tire and then
His wife to get hit by
John Cusack.
John Cusack. You're right.
That's why John Cusack
It
is
says
guilty
everything.
because
Yes.
he hit the wife.
Yep.
And she's not guilty. Neither is McGinley, right? They're kind of the
Yeah.
innocents.
They're kind of the innocents, and not clear what the actress is guilty of besides being like annoying. But
right. I mean,
anyway, they get
she's-
rid of her pretty fast.
Yeah, that's true.
But point being, there's people with a lot of secrets hanging on to a lot of guilt.
Yep.
And a lot of harm that they've done to other people. Much like in And Then There Were None, but perhaps also reflective of a larger theme of white guilt as they're all sort of hashing this out and getting their comeuppance on the site of an Indian burial ground. Burial ground makes it sound like it was like part of, that it was like part of their religion or spirituality. It's not. It was just like where a bunch of Indians died. American
Yeah.
Indians died.
Yeah, although it in the point of the movie, it's almost just used as a red herring for what could be causing these
Right. Because then when the bodies
supernatural
disappear,
occurrences,
they said like nobody human could do this, and nobody could do this. She said nobody human could
nobody
do this.
human
Ginny guesses
could be the
nobody
ghost.
Could be the ghost.
But I like this. No, it's a good read because I think it helps to add a layer that may not have been intended, but is still present in the movie. And that elevates it a little bit for me. But here, just to get back to the twist thing, if the twist was connected to that,
Mm-hmm.
then I would have been like, cool, that's more interesting. That would have helped for me. But instead, the
Right.
twist is just something completely different.
Right.
Like if the twist was thematically related to this other point that seems like it is somehow present in the movie, it's woven into the fabric of the film. It's talked about. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So that's my note, Joe Mangold.
Oh, the other connection, American Indians, that I will just briefly note is that one of the more controversial parts of And Then There Were None is that's not the original title of the book. The original title was 10 Little N-Words, and that was the poem instead of 10 Little Soldiers. And then in the 60s, they changed it to 10 Little Indians, which is not any better. And then in the 80s, they changed it to And Then There Were None and changed the poem to be Soldiers.
Yeah, I see.
But for 20 years in between, it was Indians. And apparently that 10 Little is actually like an American counting nursery rhyme that has been around since like the 1860s.
It sort of bakes in that kind of othering into the nursery rhyme that you sing to the child so that the child then gets like, oh, obviously these are the people who suck and need to die.
Yeah, I mean, they
and are
die in
dumb.
all in pretty gruesome ways
Yeah.
in this poem. And also it's infantilizing because it says one of them chokes his little self.
Yeah.
It's really offensive and I'm really glad we call it And Then There Are None now, and it's an unfortunate part of this book's history. But it is
Right.
interesting that
But- and
Jenny is the person who evokes both of those in the movie. She
Right.
talks both about And Then There Were
Right.
None without saying the name exactly, and she talks about the Indian burial
Yeah.
ground, drawing those two
But
connections.
just so I know, and then there were none. That's just about, those are about the soldiers who die. Who dies and then there were none.
the people that were brought to the island, but they're
Okay.
dying in the
They're-
way according to the nursery rhyme,
Of
which
course.
is 10 little soldiers in
I
the
see.
third
I see.
version.
Mhm. Got it. I see.
But originally it was the slur instead.
Yeah. This whole idea of white guilt isn't a guilt about anything any particular white person has done. It's a guilt about the privilege that you have systemically, provided for you by generations of history of slavery and exploitation of labor and that kind of thing that has kept the segregated class structure along racial lines effectively. And so it's interesting that, this story is the poem, I guess, but first is a kind of, I don't know, it's a kind of stand-in for that, because it's just this thing that exists as part of our history,
Mhm.
and then it changes its name and then it gets a story adapted, and then it gets this movie adapted to it, right? And it now it's completely
Removed
it's
from the
removed from the
original
source. You
sin,
wouldn't
yeah.
know what it was referring to unless you did
Mhm.
all this digging and research. But deep
And
down
I certainly
underneath,
didn't know that when I read it. I
Yeah.
had no idea that it was not originally 10 little soldiers in the poem.
yeah, and but then or that identity is based on this racist poem.
No.
But I mean, if you by
Yeah.
transitivity it is,
Yep. Yep.
and so but then you go back and you think, oh, well, that's interesting, and then here's another interesting observation, not unrelated. Every single character in this movie is white or played by a
Mhm.
white person. Didn't need to be the case. Could have
No.
cast some black people or
I would
any
even
people
go so
of
far
color.
to say in 2003, it's kind of crazy that they made a thriller movie that doesn't have a person
Yeah.
of color.
And
they
so-
usually throw one person in of color.
Unclear why that is.
Maybe kill them first.
Unclear why that is, but it is somehow, intended or not, indicative of exactly that privilege, which you don't see, you don't think about, but there it is. And it's there, and it has this history that goes back because that's invisible, because it's now become completely whitewashed and removed from its source. And so, yeah, that actually is a really interesting point to think about. And I really would be surprised if any of that was intended.
No.
But
It's just
it doesn't
his
matter.
guilty subconscious coming through.
Yeah, of Joe Mangold's guilty subconscious.
Yeah, Joey. I like to call him
Ah.
Joey.
Anyway, I like that. That's really cool. Yeah, but look,
He didn't write the
we
movie
love
either, but
Joe
never mind.
Mangold. We love Joe Mangold. He's the best. We're big fans of Joe Mang. Surely he's not a racist guy. Right? We have nothing against it. We have no reason to think this. But like all white people, he has benefited from some privilege, I would imagine.
Well, yes. And also, I mean, it might be, if in fact he intended, or the writer had intended to bake it in, it wouldn't, that's not a reason, I think. That doesn't mean he's racist. It means that he is
No.
aware.
If he baked it in and not. But
Right.
my point is that if he didn't bake it in, then it is just an unintended reflection of
His privilege.
not his race,
Mhm.
not in any kind of bad intent, but just the sort of general superstructure of the system that we
Right.
sort of exist in. But
Right.
yeah, I'm trying to look at the writer Michael Cooney. So yeah, he's written. Holy man!
What's he written?
Okay, let me just. This is actually kind of an absurd list of movies. I've never
Okay.
seen any of them except
Okay.
for Identity. He wrote a movie called Jack Frost.
Oh, isn't that the one that it's like Michael Keaton is a snowman, and the snowman looks terrifying?
It looks like Michael Keaton, but it's not. It's someone else, right? Isn't that the idea?
No, I think it was at the
Scott McDonald is the guy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but it's definitely not Michael Keaton. But yeah, I think it's a serial killer is genetically mutated. He becomes a murdering snowman.
Oh wait, no, sorry, what?
Jack Frost.
I'm thinking of a different movie. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
derailing us. Please
Jack
continue.
Frost, Shelter. I haven't even heard of this movie. Starring Julianne Moore
Okay.
and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. Jack Frost 2. And in the cover of Jack Frost 2, He just described this. Here, do you want to see this?
Yes.
Look at the cover of Jack Frost 2.
Holy shit.
Okay, so there's a demonic snowman wearing sunglasses, sort of Guy Fieri style, like they're pulled up on the top of his head. And then inside of his demonic mouth is another little snowman who's also grinning with a kind of demonic grin. And it's got a tagline, or sorry, Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. And he directed that one.
Michael Keaton
Oh my
was in
God.
that movie.
It's a totally, yeah. Hold on, when did that movie come out?
1998.
This movie came out in 1997.
Not to be confused with Jack Frost's 1997 film. So he wrote the one that does not have Michael Keaton in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the one that does not have Michael Keaton in it, though, is playing on Amazon Prime. Both Jack Frost and Jack Frost 2.
I see. Yeah.
In case you're interested.
When you said it was about a serial killer, I was like, that is not what I understood. In the 1998 Keaton one, he plays the father is killed in a car accident and then returns to life as a snowman. So it's like one of those, like, he's trying to connect with his kids kind of movies.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a snowman.
Here's a recent Letterboxd review. I love these kind of reviews.
Of the
by way.
97.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. This movie was all right and not bad for a killer snowman movie. That's a genre.
It is. There's there's like the most recent one with Michael Fassbender.
Okay. It was pretty funny and had some cool gore effects. The rape scene in the bathtub was a little intense and disturbing that it was made comedic. What? This movie sounds completely insane.
So it sounds like the writer of Identity is a national treasure.
Yeah, I think we need to watch Jack Frost and Jack Frost 2 both streaming on Amazon.
Should I just issue my public apology now, or
Wait, for what?
for Identity?
No. It's fun.
So another thing that I was thinking about with this movie was whether or not it's kind of a conservative movie in relation to its perspective on law and order. And I was wondering too how that might connect to the original text of "And Then There Were None." But the whole conceit of the whole purpose of Alfred Molina, who's the psychiatrist, what he's trying to do with this inmate, Malcolm Rivers, who is suffering from DID, is that he believes that if there could be this reckoning with all of his identities, that in fact a peaceful one could emerge, and he would no longer be, after this purging, he would no longer be a threat to society, and therefore does not deserve to die for the crimes that he committed, because only one part of him committed those crimes. Like, that's the whole idea and why they're going through this. And in the end, the judge is convinced that he's no longer a threat to society, and he commutes his sentence at the last minute, and they are both fatally wrong about that.
Quick question, just
yes.
logistically on that.
Mm-hmm.
How does he become convinced? Because of course they're not seeing what's being played out. So he's just like telling them, he's like, no, don't kill me. And then it's like, and then he just like,
he
now I'm the last.
Some things out loud from what's happening in his head / at the motel, which would be weird if you're just watching somebody play act it.
What I wonder,
how do they know that it's only Paris left?
Under what conditions would you ever be convinced that? Okay, first of all, this guy has DID. Okay, maybe you can be convinced by that. The Notebook was convincing, but how can you be convinced
that Notebook
that
was straight out of 7, by the way? Please continue.
Okay, but at what point then are you like, I'm now convinced that only a good personality is left? Like, what evidence could possibly convince you of that? I don't feel like any evidence could convince me that that is the case.
Nope.
I don't know. I'm just trying to imagine like what it would be like to be like.
And that judge did not seem particularly
like, hey,
amiable to the situation to begin with.
Yeah, totally.
So it's sort of surprising.
Yeah. If I was already skeptical and then I was like, hey, are you a good personality or bad personality? It's like, totally, I'm a good personality.
He's like, I'm the good one. I'm Paris.
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm
I've
just
never
go
killed
hang out
anyone.
with some oranges.
And they're like, are you sure? Do you remember killing people? Nope. Don't remember it. I don't.
No, sir.
I'm a good person. And then you're like, okay, I believe it. That stood up to scrutiny.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's completely ludicrous at this point. But I did wonder if this movie feels a little bit frustrated at or skeptical about the idea of rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And like maybe frustrated that the law like cannot properly reach people that suffer from mental illness or that like don't know what they've done. Is it like just like an incredibly conservative like view on everybody who commits a crime should be put away and or executed?
Yeah. I mean, that is the lesson of the movie. The lesson is
They should have killed him.
yeah. The lesson is let the sparks fly. Don't let this guy
Don't
kill
talk to him about
anymore.
like his feelings and personalities and like whether or not he understands what he's done. No. Just kill him.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. It is complicated
right?
by the fact that in actuality, rehabilitation is a very, serious and important issue, and
Yes.
not like just
Yes.
not just
No, I
like-
was being flip.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's hard to really
Believe that anybody
want to
would have
jump
such a
into
perspective.
want to embody this take on the movie, even though I agree that
I don't want to. I thought of it because in terms of the thematic connections with And Then There Were None, the killer is in fact a judge. So I was just thinking about the judgment aspect of this movie.
Right.
And how it connects to the book. In fact, what we find out, this is my big spoiler alert, is that the killer is a judge who really loved putting people away.
I see.
But he was frustrated that there were people that he could not reach. He would read stories and sort of ascertain for himself that he believed certain people had committed murder and gotten away with it. And he kept these clippings of people and drew them all together in the end, blackmailed them into the being on this island, and then killed them one by one. Because like, even though as a man with ultimate power and able to like decide life or death for people, that was not enough for him to just judge on the cases that were brought to him. He had to like, go outside and do some extracurricular judging.
That's interesting.
And executing.
That's interesting. So he's a vigilante judge.
Yes.
He's a bit like Judge Dredd then.
Yes.
Yeah. Or
Yes.
Batman.
Yeah, Judge Dredd is actually, most people don't know that, but it is an adaptation of another Agatha Christie
Oh,
novel.
which one is it?
I wasn't ready for a response.
I'm just setting you up in case you wanted
Thank
to.
you. Thank
I don't
you
know,
so
in case
much.
you
I
wanted
really
to have a little
appreciate
joke about the judge. So that's okay. I didn't know that. That's another thematic connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I was trying to tease at. I don't know if it means I don't think the reading of the movie is actually.
No, but the difference is in the Agatha Christie one, the judge is the bad guy.
Yes.
And in this one, the judge is the rube who gets convinced to let this guy go, and he's not the bad guy. He's just a whatever. I feel like I like the Agatha Christie one more because I'm thinking it's a sympathetic idea. I mean, it's bad, but it's like it's not like an unintelligible evil like in this movie where you're like, well, this guy just has 20 personalities and some of them are just super evil and that's that. Rather, it's like, no, this guy like thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks, he's like seen the system and he's like, the system sucks.
Right.
We gotta beat the system at its own game.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to do all this extracurricular stuff to see real justice. But that is wrong. I mean, procedural justice is important.
Of course
It's just not sexy.
No.
Identity, man. I'm gonna show this to my class when we do personal identity.
Please do.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, okay.
Which one are you?
Which one? Oh my gosh. Okay. Is there anything more?
No, I like it.
Okay.
I'm getting increasingly defensive about it, but I think it's fun. I just give me a murder mystery and a rainy motel any day.
I will. I do have some bad news for you, which is that Hollywood doesn't make movies like this anymore, and you have to watch silly TV shows to.
I know,
to get this.
like when they made a TV show about the Bates Motel. Did you know that happened?
No.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but they did that.
Well,
no, thank you.
Now you have to watch a bunch of TV, and you can do that without me because I don't watch TV anymore. So that's that. So that was, and then you were None. I mean, Identity.
I mean,
And the next episode we're going to do is going to be really interesting. It's going to be a recap episode of the Steve Harvey Show. So you can look forward to that. We're going to basically do, I don't know, seasons 1 and 2, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's really where the show was strongest, I'd say.
Okay. And Bullet Hit gets introduced midway through season. Is he from the beginning?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't watch them in order. This is all like in syndication, all jumbled about.
If you've enjoyed listening, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are at CowsPod on Twitter and cowspod.wordpress.com where we post the episodes and things like that. So join us. And Laura's I'm gonna give her the final word on Identity. I'm gonna give this movie half thumb, which is, it could be thumb down.
That's so rude.
Or it could be 2 thumbs down, or it could be 2 thumbs up, right? And I'm going to give it half thumb sideways. So the sideways thumb.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I'm sorry. I mean, you convinced me it's potentially more interesting than I had thought, but I couldn't bring myself to actually give a thumb up.
Mm-hmm. No, your whole thing about sideways and halves, and I lost my train of thought. It was so elaborate.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the twist in Identity.
I hope you get all that on mic. Just a big old sigh.
Okay, but you're giving it a thumb up.
I'm totally giving it a thumbs up. It's fun to rewatch. Head in the dryer. It's going to freak you out. This movie gets into my bones, and I'm not apologizing for it.
Yeah. I think that I will say the sad thing, I think, is that I think the next generation that watches this movie is not going to get in their bones. I don't think.
Why not?
I just think I think horror, and especially horror like this, it's too
dated.
much tied to the time, and it's just not going to work.
There's also just too many people like looking for bars on their cell phone. I just think that's going to be so confusing to people.
Yeah.
No, it's a movie that is very much in 2003. I think that's part of the pleasure for me.
Yep.
I discovered it in that moment, and it meant a lot to me at the time. I really loved it, and I still enjoy rewatching it, and I'd be curious to hear what others think.
Okay. Thanks so much, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.